Hi, everybody. It's Bob Ost. This is Friday, and I think it's I think it's the 30th. I'm famous for not remembering what the date is. So it's January 30th, and Friday means that we're doing our TRU Community Gathering. For those of you who don't know us, who are just sort of finding us on YouTube, hi, welcome. Thanks. I'm glad you found us. We're a small arts services organization in Manhattan in New York. And we focus on really helping people understand the business of theater. We have a big interest in supporting producers, but we also support all artists and particularly try to help them navigate the business better than they might otherwise. Uh, so, welcome to True. Um, we're not as small as we used to be. We're getting unusually big for what we were used to being because we started doing this video thing. We're on Zoom now. We started it 5 years ago. Well, almost 6 years ago, isn't it? 2020. It was a response to COVID. People didn't have anywhere to go and come together and talk about theater and feel like a community. So we did this. We opened this room. I knew nothing about Zoom. Just for the record, I didn't know what Zoom was. I didn't really have any interest in virtual, but somebody convinced me to do it. Thank you, somebody. And we opened the room, and people started coming in every Friday. And we used to get like 30 to 50 people every Friday. We've had as many as 90 or 100. And then we started putting things out on Zoom. I mean, on Zoom, on YouTube. This is Zoom. Hello. And we developed a following of like a couple thousand people who are followers of our Zoom channel. And we've gotten as many as 311,000 views for one of our interviews. So if you're out there and you're discovering us, thank you. Thank you for being here. And I hope you enjoy this and I hope you find this useful and interesting. We talk about the arts. I mean, we certainly start in the focus on theater, but we kind of expand beyond theater. Um, but today we are going to be focusing on theater, but we're expanding because we're expanding beyond theater in New York. We're expanding actually part of a series that I've been doing over the past 5 years. We've been looking at theater internationally, and luckily for me, I have a very good friend who's really kind of at the heart in the heart of the international theater scene. She's amazing. She was at one time she was the executive director of the Theater Communications Group, which put her in touch with theater around the United States. But her own interests go well beyond the borders of our country. Um, the borders of our country. Let's not even get into those. But I want you to meet my friend Teresa Eyring in a moment, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her background. And just so you know, what we're going to be talking about today is theater in Chile, in Santiago, and in Chile in general, and what's going on very much outside of New York. And we probably will touch on other things as well. But here is Teresa. So, Teresa, correct my introduction to you in any way you need to.
No, I love your introduction. Thank you, Bob.
Well, you're
I
welcome.
I will just I have been part of True for a number of years now, and Bob's often called me and tried calling me again and again to participate in different events and activities. So I'm really happy to be here today and to be joined by colleagues from Chile, and you will meet them in a moment. And just to add to what Bob said, I have spent my entire career in theater. I knew from a young age, and this is a tribute to my parents because they really believed in the power of the arts and took me to theater and took my siblings. I have five brothers and sisters, and we went to museums and to hear music and to theater. And so I developed an appreciation, but at a point I also had a thought that theater and the arts more broadly should be central in community life. That was something that struck me, that everyone should have access to the arts. The arts should not be marginalized. And I feel as if theater was much more of a marginalized activity when I was young than it is now. It's grown and grown and grown and grown, even against all odds. So when I graduated from college, I knew that I wanted to go into theater. I didn't want to be on stage. I wanted to be the person who got people there, the producer, the marketer, the fundraiser. And I got a degree in arts administration. But right after college, I was hired by the Woolly Mammoth when it was a teeny tiny theater company, um, operating out of a church in Washington, D.C. And from there, I just, as they say, I got the bug, I caught the passion, and I just kept going, working in resident theater companies, several around the US. And then I was hired by TCG in 2007. So I spent from 2007 until just a year and a half ago, 2024, working at TCG. So I do feel like I have this sense of what's happening on the ground in theater, but also sort of a higher level perspective or an overview of what some of the trends are across the field. And as far as the international piece, I've I've never seen necessarily a distinction between theater in the US and theater everywhere else. Um, I I'm grateful for the many opportunities that I've had to travel, to meet with artists in other countries, to attend festivals, and to be part of the International Theater Institute, of which TCG is the US Center. So I'm just I'm still passionate about it, and that's why I'm here. And I'm really grateful that my colleagues could join tonight because I just returned from the Santiago Emil Theater Festival in Santiago, and also over the years I've come to know Roberto, and more recently Noelia, and many of their colleagues, and I become a part of their work as well, which we'll talk about more later.
Okay, I'm going to bring on Roberto Cayuqueo and Noelia Coñuenao. I don't know how to do that. I didn't practice your last name. So I'm going to actually have you say your last name for me. I'm going to bring you both on. Um, and so here's Roberto. Where are you? There you are.
Okay.
And
Hello, everybody. I am Roberto Cayuqueo. Mari Santiago. Inche ta Roberto Cayuqueo nyen. Tani chau Mapuche nyen. Tani ñuque Winca nyen. Huelu tani mulfun. Tani trekan. Tani trakizuan Mapuche nyen. Hello, everybody. Say hello in the language of my people, the Mapuche people. The name of the language is Mapudungun. I say hello. My name is Roberto. My mother is Chilean, but my father is a Mapuche. So I am a mix. But I try like my things, my steps are Mapuche. I am very happy here with my colleague Noelia from ITI Chile. Noelia,
Noelia,
maybe you can say hello.
yeah, say hello, Noelia. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I didn't introduce you as much as I introduced Roberto and Teresa, but I know that you are a young artist in Chile. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. Uh, Hello, everyone. I am Noelia Coñuenao. My English is not too well, but I am trying. I am a younger Mapuche actress, and I have been working with Roberto in the Colectivo EPEU and ET, ETATA, I don't know.
ITI.
ITI. And I think I am the youngest in the team. So I'm so happy to be here with all of you.
So I'm going to fill in a few things for people that are out there listening. The ITI that we're referring to is the International Theater Institute. It's a theater center in Chile, and Roberto is one of the leaders of that particular arts organization. And let me bring Teresa on as well, and we'll all talk for a second. Add spotlight to Teresa, and I'm gonna come on
Hello.
I'm gonna come on with you as well.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah, here I am. Here we all are. So there's a lot of things that we want to talk about today. That's a very general statement, but there are some specific things that we're going to touch on. I know that for those of you who aren't clear about this at this point, Roberto was trying to let you know that he is Mapuche. Mapuche is an indigenous people of Chile. And
Yes.
and when he introduced himself, and he explained this clearly, so I'm just being repetitive. He was saying a few sentences in the Mapuche language, just to give all of us a sense of who he is and who his people are. And I appreciate that very much because we in America, especially these days, tend to forget that there's anything other than America. The Americans are it. We are a small part of the world, and I think theater and the arts help us keep things in perspective. I think that's one of the function of the arts is to help keep us all in perspective. Teresa, where do we want to start? Why don't we start with something that's pretty easy to grasp, which is the Santiago, Chile, the Teatro the festival that you just came back from. And also tell us what was Roberto's involvement with that as well, so we have the pieces in order.
Well, I think I want to just say that the theater festival in Santiago is, when you talk about TRU and its growth, Santiago Emil has seen incredible growth over the years. It's been in existence for decades, but it's expanding and growing and interconnecting more and more every year. I was just there. Their festival is always in January, and they have a part of the festival that's called Platea. And Platea is a week of programming that is specifically for programmers, producers, theater makers from around the world. And we see different productions. We have a lot of social time together. And so I've just returned from that. Roberto was part of that. We were on a panel together at the festival talking about the Chilean International Theater Institute. So I can, later, I'll talk a little bit more about some of the outcomes of that festival. But I want to use this moment to also talk about how Roberto and I first met, which is at the festival in 2023. I was there with the current Director General of ITI, Wen Chen. She is from China, and based kind of in China and also in Paris. ITI has an office in Paris and an office in Shanghai. And we had been discussing, I was on the ITI Executive Council, and we had been discussing the fact that there hadn't been a Chilean ITI center really since the dictatorship in Chile of Pinochet, which ended in 1989 or 90. So this is almost 30 plus years of no ITI center. And Lemmy Bonifacio, who's a really phenomenal Samoan choreographer, recommended that if we were going to start a new ITI center in Chile, that it would be a good idea to consider having it be led by the Mapuche people.
Well, let me just jump in for a second, because this goes very much with what you introduced to us as your mission. You feel that the arts and theater should be
Right,
the basis, should be one of the basis of any community.
right,
So consequently, the next logical thing to say is that if you're going to have an arts center in Chile, it would be nice to involve the indigenous people.
right. So yes, very good point. Um, and I'll hand it to Roberto for a moment to talk about ITI Chile. But one of the things, because you specifically asked about the most recent Santiago Amil festival where we just were, is to say that yes, 3 years later, the ITI Chile Center has grown, and there is a very strong interest there among artists and people who were involved in the festival and hearing more about it. So that's why we were both there together presenting and representing. I've become part of the ITI Chile Center as well, even though I'm part of the ITI US Center. But Roberto, do you want to say some words? Bob, is it okay if I hand the mic for a second to Roberto to
Oh,
say some?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I would have done it myself. I also want to make sure that Noelia knows that I'd like her perspective as to be part of the conversation. I think, and one of the things I'd like both of you to touch on a little bit more is how you found your way to theater.
Hmm.
Um, of all things that you could do in your life in your country, uh, how did theater appear as a light that you wanted to follow? Do you need help with that? Do you need me to?
Yes, creo que necesito ayuda with the Spanish, please.
Uh, um,
Do you want me to help?
yes.
¿Cómo encontraste el teatro basado en las circunstancias donde tú estás? ¿Cómo, cómo llegaste al teatro a pesar de todo?
Sí.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Gracias,
okay, I
gracias.
understand. Well, I think in the theater is in the life of the old people. The theater live in the old people, like the poets, like the songs, like the musician, like the dance. No, the Mapuche people have all the stories, oral stories, and these stories talk about the animals, like the legends, but these stories talk about the natural things, the cosmovision, the philosophy of the Mapuche people. So when I was a child, my grandfather told me about the story of the fox and
Condor.
I don't know, remember the name of the bird in English, but there
Condor,
is a
Condor, you said, right? Condor?
maybe the condor. Yeah, no, the
No.
other bird. It's a little bird and it's very well for singer. The la perdiz in English in Spanish is perdiz. I don't
The
know if
Mars? Any help?
We have to
Partridge.
Google that.
It's partridge.
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 Yeah.
Partridge. We know the partridge for Christmas.
yeah. So in this story, the fox is no correct with the perdiz. He make a promise and he have a mistake with this promise. So I think this is my first uh, experience with the art. And my grandfather told me this in the fire, drinking mate with the mate is the traditional drinking of the Mapuche people in the south. and I think this is my first experience with them with this phenomenon. No, I think in the all cultures exist. This is a little stories o teatric, como pequeñas cosas teatrales, ¿no? I think when you have in a culture exists a mask, you have theater, no? The other
Okay,
experience is the Occidental theater.
let
No,
me
this is
let me
other
see if
experience.
let me see if I'm following. So I think in essence you're saying that storytelling and stories are so basic to your people that it's not a big leap to be interested in seeing those performed, and that's where theater comes from for you, is the performance of the stories that are traditional stories that you know and love. Am I Damaris, do you want to help me out or am I okay?
Las historias vienen basado en lo que tú pasaste en tu niñez, de las historias que te contaron tus abuelos, tu familia, que de ahí salió todo eso que tienes, que has hecho en el teatro.
Sí, yes, sure. And after I study in the university, but in this moment, I live in other way, no? Because in the university in Chile, many people teach, no, the theater born in Greek, no. So I think in all people need try of change this structure, no. So for us, many people say the Mapuche theater no exist, no, but now we can found in these stories the other stories and the other movements of the our story, the theater exists in our people, no, because the Mapuche people have many years and have of the resistance with first with the Spain, after with the Chilean state, and in the all is process the art is important in every moment.
Noelia, can you tell us a little bit about why theater interests you and what it is in theater that you like and that you want to do? Do you want to act? Do you want to write? Do you want to run a theater?
I think that I want to do everything because for me it's too important. Like this way to think in Mapuche people, like we have to be in every place. It's like a work that we have to do. Like for me, the theater comes like 7 years ago, and I think that I can say that I am a Mapuche actress like 3 years ago. Even if I am Mapuche from I born it, because the theater is a way to be Mapuche for me.
That's very interesting. To say that acting is a way to be Mapuche. I'm not sure whether our act. I guess in a sense, our actors here, whether they realize it or not, are getting in touch with who they are through being actors and through acting and being in theater. I guess all art. I guess that's what art is about for many of us. I think for all of us, at some point, it's about getting in touch with who we are.
Yes.
We write to learn about ourselves, and I think there was a famous line from a poet who said, "I write to find out what I'm thinking." So I act to find out who I am. I think is a great thing to think about. It's an interesting thing to think about. Um, Teresa, let me ask you, you can probably give a broader context, and we'll bring Roberto Noelia as well. What what did you learn, or what is the aesthetic? What is happening in theater in Chile? What happened? What did you see? What did you experience in theater in Santiago when you were down there? And,
Well,
and and is it any different from theater here?
yes and no.
That's what I was expecting. Yes.
Yes, but I want to read to you. Today we received a letter from Carmen Romero, who is the longtime director of this festival, and she's really amazing woman. Because this is a summary of the impact in terms of who is there, particularly for Platea, which I mentioned, because the festival is it's for the community, it's for the public, but this 1 week that brings people from around the world who are producers, who are programmers, who are people in theater in different ways. This is what she's writing about. She said this edition of Platea brought together 412 programmers, artists, producers, and professionals who believe in the transformative power of cultural exchange, with 61% international participation, representing 34 countries, and 47% of attendees taking part in this platform for the first time. These figures reflect the scope of a community in constant expansion across territories and perspectives where reciprocity and trust are key to continuing to project and develop our work. Once again, we reaffirm that it matters to meet face to face, to spark reflection, sustain dialogue, and build networks that accompany contemporary creation, making it possible to share our cultures and imagine futures of cooperation together. So I feel as if that vision, that sense of optimism about what we can do together as theater makers across the world is really potent. But what I will say is, being there, I think that there's just more flexibility around the kinds of spaces. There's so much outdoor theater programming, street theater companies. There's also theater that's happening in traditional spaces, in very non-traditional spaces. In fact, Roberto and Noelia are the Colectivo IPEU was part of Santiago Off Festival, taking place around the same time, and their company produced has a piece that I can't describe the whole thing right now because I want to mention a couple other things, but it's very much in a theater and outside of a theater, and features two phenomenal actors who are both also well known in film in Chile and other parts of the world. But a couple things I want to mention, because Stephanie had talked about her upcoming projects and doing Chekhov one acts, I believe you said, Stephanie. And it was very interesting to me. One of the shows that I went to see, and Roberto was with me, was called Vanya. And, you know, there's so many adaptations of Chekhov in the US. And so I was very interested in this adaptation. And a lot of people were talking about it. There was some buzz. They'd added performances. And the director is from Argentina. The acting company was from Antofagasta, which is in the north of Chile near the desert. Noelia, did you see this, Vanya? I don't remember.
Yes.
You did. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I saw you there. Okay. It was so interesting how they did it, because if you know Uncle Vanya and you know the final speech with Sonia and Vanya after everyone else is left and they're there by themselves in the house, and it's this really devastating speech and or monologue, and they started the piece with that monologue instead of ending the play with a monologue. So they start with the ending monologue. Sonia is played by a man. Vanya is played by a woman who, by the way, is an actor that Roberto has done 3 different films with. And it was just very muscular. Took place like the set was all made of wood that apparently is the kind of wood that miners' homes in that area were constructed of in the north of Chile. So it was just a powerful interpretation, very different from anything I've seen before. And I really appreciated it because, again, you think about playwrights like Chekhov, who are endlessly fascinating to artists and endlessly performed and adapted. So I really love that. But other things too, they brought in companies from all over the world. So I saw a really very interesting piece called Mam, which is a dance piece from Ireland. Um, and basically it's Cormac Begley, who is a master concertina player, and like 12 dancers, and they're dancing to his concertina for a good 20 minutes, half hour before this curtain drops, and there's an entire band behind them, which is called Stargaze. And it just built and built and built, and it was really a masterpiece. And I think it was first done in 2020. It's going to be touring the UK. It came to Chile first. So that's kind of the range of things. And I think in Chile, there's so many young artists, younger artists, and older artists who continue to create really beautiful work in creative ways. And again, the idea of where theater takes place is a bit more fluid there than I think is the case in the US. But anyway.
Well, for a little bit more context for all of us, we've also been talking about festivals, and we've had 3 or 4 in the past couple months. We talked about festivals. Um, let's talk a little bit Roberto. I think you might have the answers to this. What is the structure of your festival? How do people know to apply to the festival? How do you determine who will be accepted into your festival? Um, how does it work? How does that happen? Um,
¿Cómo funcionan los festivales? ¿Cómo las compañías son aceptadas para participar en un festival? Eso estaba preguntando Roberto, si sabes cómo funciona la orgánica dentro de los festivales.
Yeah, gracias, Noel. Yes, okay. The Santiago Mil have a jury all years, different jury, even change
yes.
for each years, and they go to the theaters and select the plays, no? But for different issues, no? Maybe one year is talk about the feminists, or other year talk about the ecologist things, or the
Well,
other
let me
talk about
ask
the
you.
dictatorship.
Una pregunta. ¿Qué estaba el tema de este año?
I think that the most important things now is the sentence of this year is sí importa, no? Yes, is important.
Eh,
Because we live now. Sorry?
Like theater matters. Matters.
Yeah.
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 Yes, it
Yeah, the
matters.
theater matters.
Yes, it matters.
Theater matters. Okay.
Yes, it
Yeah.
matters. Yeah. Theater, el teatro o sí,
El teatro importa.
el teatro
Sí.
importa. Okay, theater matters.
Yeah, because now we have a candidate and they winner the president of the republic, and this candidate don't like the culture, don't no appreciate the theater.
Do you live in America?
Yeah, we are the same continent.
No, we have this. What you're describing is exactly what we're going through.
Like
We have
Yeah, it's a movement, no? It's like
yeah.
a movement, international movement. I think in we all our countries live this reality now, or maybe in 2 years more, no? It's our time. So for this, in this moment, the principal sentence is this, no? And the all pieces selected have stay in this way. But we have other festivals, Santiago Off. This is a festival like the underground theater, but is a convivence between both festivals. And these festivals talk about the political resistance. So my company, Colectivo EPEU, stay in the other festival in Santiago Off, in a special theater. And this theater existed in a bridge in our river. Up our river, because in Santiago we have only river, and this river, the name is Mapocho, and we make a site-specific performance in this place.
Did you
Talk
get?
about the Mapocho River, talk about sí, Noé, por favor. She's actress in our site-specific performance, so we work together.
Teresa, did I hear you say earlier that there were around 400 pieces that were presented in the festival? Is it that big, or did I mishear?
I was reading Carmen Romero, who's the head of the festival, her letter to those of us who were there.
So it's a large festival.
Yeah, and let me just find of course my phone is acting funny. So 412 programmers, artists, producers, and professionals who believe in the transformative power of theater. I don't know the exact number of pieces that were in the festival, but it's a lot. Let me just say.
I remember hearing 400. I thought that's way
that was
more than
the number of programmers who were part of this one week that happens every year.
Well, for a context for us, when we had the New York Fringe here, we still have a New York Fringe. It's different than what it was originally. We used to have 200 to 250 pieces in our Fringe festival here. And I thought that was large until I went to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Edinburgh has 3,000. So I'm just trying to put the Chilean festival, the meal, into a perspective of whether it's one of the bigger or smaller, or does it change every year?
It's big, but it's different because Edinburgh, for example, there's the Edinburgh Festival, and then there's the Fringe.
Right.
And the Fringe is where you find 3,000. I mean, I don't think the Edinburgh Fringe is juried, or maybe it is, but it's very
not.
open. And Santiago, the Teatro in Santiago is the main festival, right? So when Roberto was talking about Santiago Off, that's kind of like the underground festival. But it's very much, I don't know if there are many international companies that perform in Santiago Off. Noelia, do you know? Or Roberto,
well,
do you
when
know?
you said there was one Irish piece that you were talking about, was that in the
That was in the
festival?
main festival in
It was
one of
in the
their
main-
biggest of their biggest theaters. No, the main festival is very international. And they are making agreements with different countries all the time. Like just this past year, Roberto and I were at a meeting at the Brazilian embassy because we were invited to a discussion about some programming that they're developing in Brazil and the ways that they're going to be partnering with Chile. There was also an agreement being signed with France. So the main festival of Santiago is it's big and getting bigger. And it's very international. But Santiago Off is more like, I guess, like the Fringe, but it's not as international as the main festival.
But it might grow into it at some point.
Yeah, but I need Roberto and Noelia know more about Santiago Off than I do.
Do you want to add anything, Roberto or Noelia, about Santiago Off?
Entendí como que necesitas más información, como si sabes más cómo funciona Santiago Off, si es que hay nacionales.
I think in Santiago of the difference is have a like Santiago Mil have a 1 week of the program people and or the theater companies, but I think in your principal character, your principal character is the independent theater, no? And the small companies, the small theaters connect, make a network in a little space with the young artist or company for when some companies work in the street. I think it is no the work with Santiago of is connect with the underground for different parts of the Latin America, like Brazil, like Peru. Today, no, yesterday, 2 days ago, I was a meeting with meet with the Peruvian artist and Argentine artist, connect the region, no, and with little theaters in Barcelona, for example, the last year have a presence in Barcelona. The name of this a little festival is Barcelona Off. It's like a reflect or continue of the Santiago Off, and we present there our play. I think this is the job of Santiago of connect the underground or the little space with the other artists, no? For example, on Santiago Mil is more official, no? It's more have more presupuest, no more building. The resource is direct with the state, and Santiago is a cooperative festival. No, this is the difference, but it's too big. No, and share the same space, the same theaters, or the same, but the companies or the character of the people is different.
Let's let's pull
I,
this into
sorry.
because I have a room full of American artists. Um,
But there is a question from Damaris.
oh, are the plays in Spanish or both languages?
Yeah, in Spanish, and today present a company of the Brazilian company. They in Portuguese with subtitles. I don't know if I come here company of the United States, but Spain, from Africa, from Brazilian, many from Brazilian.
Well, I guess the obvious question that I think I haven't asked is the majority of what you what you present in Santiago, the festival, uh, is it in Spanish language? Is it in how much of it is
No,
in
it's
your language?
principal in Spanish. Yeah.
What they do is
Well, we
that
Oh, it's
try
principal.
they use the Mapudungun in a little moments, no, like a Mapuche artist, of course. Yeah.
but
So
the but let me just like add something, which is because I saw especially during the presenters week where they bring all of the people in for that 1 week. The festival goes for the entire month of January, pretty much, maybe 3 weeks or the full month. Um, but that 1 week, they're really interested in people getting to know the Chilean companies. So most of the plays are in, or productions of whatever. There's also dance and music and other things, but they're in Spanish. But they have English um, super titles or subtitles so that people can read them. A lot of people can read English, right? So if they don't speak Spanish, they can at least get some of what's going on.
how much of the work is dependent on language, and how much of the work that you do down there is basically just visual? It could be dance, it could be music, but it doesn't necessarily require understanding the language to see it. I mean, that's a question of any theater that we produce. How much do we need the language, and how much can we get out of the production just from the visuals, um, and the emotion of it? It's like watching a film without subtitles, a foreign film without
Mm.
subtitles. How much do you understand? But then there are some pieces that are created with the intention of crossing language barriers.
I think in the language is one thing, no, for in or better when many things. For me, I'm not sure, but I for me I think in the more important thing in this in the theater is like a picture, no, is the photo, no, the for different moments, the play with the light, with the sounds, with the emotions of the actors. We when you make a mix with these things, uh, we can look the theater not only with the words or the language. This is one things. I think the most important is the visual and the sounds. No, I can when I travel in the other parts, I can go to the for example the last year I stay in China in Shanghai in a festival. I don't understand anything and nothing of the Chinese and the subtitle is in English, but I can feeling the emotion of the play, you know, and the trip in this trip of the motions, no? With the visions, the costumes, the sounds of the actor and the musician. So for me, the language is, yes, it's important, but you can look feeling the play with other sounds.
I saw a piece at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which was a solo piece um, by a man who um, he's he was Hindu, and he basically was deaf mute. So there was no language in this play. He did perform the entire thing in pantomime with an interesting film background, images that were coming up in film. And this talk about crossing a language barrier. This surprised me when he first walked on the stage, on this big stage. I'm thinking, how is this one man who can't speak and is using sign language? How is he going to command the stage? And he did completely, totally commanded the stage. So this leads into questions about your passion, Teresa, which is building bridges. One of the reasons why we're talking about this at all is because we want to talk about how we can collaborate, how we can reach across borders. Borders used to be just a line. Now it's becoming a wall. But nevertheless, we're trying to cross. What is your idea? What do we have to learn from each other? What can we do, Teresa? Do you have any thoughts about how we as artists can expand beyond the borders that are starting to have walls built upon them in our country? Um, a lot of us
Well,
here are not happy with our country right now.
well, a lot of us are not. And, I spent a lot of time in theaters in Minneapolis.
Oh,
So I'm an honorary Minnesotan, but it's on the one hand, uh, it's so frightening what's happening in terms of the federal government almost instigating what feels like a mini civil war in one of our states over immigration, which is like the foundation of our country in a way, for better or for worse. And I say for worse because a lot of people, indigenous people, lost their lives as a result of the colonization of our lands here. But I think that the fact that there is a group of people here who are listening to this talk who hopefully are interested in the idea of recognizing theater as an art form, as a thing, recognizing that we have a worldwide community of theater makers. We may not all speak the same language. but we can know each other. Martha Coignet, who ran the International Theater Institute in the US for many, many years, used to say something along the lines of the importance of theater is that it helps us know each other. And when you know each other, you're less likely to kill each other. I mean, she was like this. And if you travel, if you go to the Santiago Emil Festival, for example, or you go to any country and meet theater people, we all speak the same theater language. You know, Roberto was just talking about all the elements of theater and how theater speaks. Um, Everybody's got the same challenges. People are worried about, how are we going to make this the best piece? How are we going to get the resources we need to put the show up? How are we going to I was at a conference in Ghana in Africa a few years ago, and I was listening to all these companies talking about how they wanted to be able to tour to go to each other's countries with their shows, but they were encountering not only financial difficulties, but also, sometimes crossing a border and ending up in the middle of some kind of military conflict or but the conversations are all like we are part of a big old theater family in a way, but you have to start to know people. You have to start to, if you can figure out ways to travel and go to festivals or see theater. Festivals are good because you get to see theater from all over sometimes, and you also get to make new friends and colleagues. But also you find out that we have a certain connection to each other because of the work that we do. And that exists within our own country, but it exists beyond the so-called borders as well. So I guess I would just say is people who want to explore those relationships further, and since TRU is already doing some of this work in terms of your community gatherings and having us here, so on like that, is maybe just to start, building a little network of people who want to try to work more globally, whether it's having your work presented or presenting other people's work or just making relationships, you know. Um, it's I think it's important, especially now, because we don't have a country right now at the federal level that is bringing the same uh, sense of collaboration across the world. It's shutting countries out. It's trying to buy countries. It's trying to exit one of our biggest military collaborations of all time. It's trying to defund agencies that have brought a presence around the world. So I think artists are the diplomats now. So
I think that most of us in the room probably have felt that it's hard enough to get our work done and noticed here, and have probably not gravitated toward the idea of thinking more globally. But I do want to say that whether we realize it or not, over the past 5 years, 5 or 6 years after a shutdown and after being forced to actually be part of the virtual theater, the virtual world, um, we might want to consider the fact that we do have access to opportunities outside of our own small communities, and it's worth at least a thought
mhm.
for everybody. We can go online. We can meet each other from all over the world now. It's kind of mind-boggling at times. That's like, how did this happen? I know how it happened. It happened because of COVID. Thank you, COVID. We can thank them for something. Um, I'm not sure how many of us would have aspired to international connections or connecting internationally um, before we learning how to maneuver in a virtual world, which we now are in right now in this meeting. Um, I have another question off. It's very tangential. But our understanding here of commercial theater is really Broadway. I mean, it's become a brand. Broadway has become a brand of commercial theater. It's what we think of as commercial theater. What do you think of in Chile as being commercial theater? We've been talking about art. Let's talk about business for a second. Um, what does commercial theater look like in Chile? Do you have an, I mean, if you don't have an
Um,
answer, you can tell me.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's not like too big like Broadway.
No.
We have maybe 4 or 5 commercial theaters, and the principal actor there is like the television theater actors. Uh, but I think in is a principally is a comedy. But I think in the Chilean theater, if have quality, the most comedy or commercial play is have uh, one point, political point, no? Uh,
Political content
it-
is
yeah,
characteristic. Yeah.
yeah. In a comedy or commercial comedy, I remember many like exist a story company. The name is Teatro Aparte in Chile. The Teatro Aparte is the first, I think, in company in the 19th year. Start with the comedy and the commercial theater, and your principal things is talk about the reality of the Chilean people, and this reality is closing with the political things. In a comedy, but I think and the Argentine theater is the same relationship with the comedy. Yeah, yeah. I think in the open, no, the way for the under or the young theater. I think in the when the people go to the theater, it's not important go to the commercial theater or the I don't know the underground theater, but the important is go to the theater.
Well, I think that we've come to understand that here in America as well. I think that when you said earlier, Teresa, this I keep going back to this. I think it's a key point for the whole conversation that community is at the heart of theater, and that theater should be serving community. Um, I think we understand, those of us in professional theater understand that commercial Broadway is a very limited, very specific kind of theater, and it's not really what makes our culture breathe. Uh, it helps it does help it helps it gives it a little bit of life, but there's much more going on around our country. And you, as the person that was the head of uh, theater theater communications group, TCG,
Yeah.
know that the theater from city to city around our country, to some degree, does reflect its community. Um, I'm not sure whether you feel that it does so enough, or whether you think that we should really be looking at a different model than what we're used to in our country. Because there still is a model that we're following. It's really kind of a commercial model, but people in different areas of the country having community are having theater that's being accessible to communities, and it does change to a degree based on the community. I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, sometimes people are critical of uh, the fact that there might be, 10 theaters around the country that are all doing the same play. And I think that's interesting because in reality, that's great. That means audiences all over the country are able to see that play with different interpretations, with different artists usually. And but also, here's something that always was fascinating to me. When the resident theater movement really got started, Zelda Fitzhandler really pushing it at Arena Stage and others, not just Zelda, but many other
She,
visionaries of the
she was a
time.
pioneer.
Um, the idea was we want to have theater as an instrument of civilization. We want it to be up there with like, all the major civic uh, entities, including the orchestras and the operas, where usually there's like one big orchestra in a city, or maybe two, um, or one big museum and then some galleries. But theater, we start these resident theater companies like the Guthrie or like the Alley or like the Arena Stage. And now it's not just one big theater or one big theater and a few smaller theaters. There's like 100 theaters there. So, but that's not the same. You don't see 100 symphony orchestras. You don't see 100 opera companies. So the point is that theater is multiplies in its communities and and often the smaller theaters or the new theaters that come behind the ones that started as the kind of so-called flagships or they're they're representing different points of view, different cultures, different aesthetics. So it's not that, and often very much connected to their communities because theater is very local. The artists tend to travel often from theater to theater around the country, maybe not as much as pre-pandemic times, but the box office staff, the ushers, the audience, you know, the stage crew, they're usually local. So that's one thing. The other thing you mentioned, Broadway, and I think about orchestras and opera and the other art forms that have managed to have major flagship large operations in different cities. There's not there's not like a Broadway for orchestra or a Broadway um, for opera. Theater's got Broadway and that commercial presence, and theater has nonprofit resident companies of all sizes all over the country, and sometimes also like commercial touring or things like that. So it's really evolved. I'm not exactly answering your question, but I think what I'm trying to say is that the reason why theater has been able to expand in the way it has is because it does reflect not not just one community, but the multiple communities that exist in different areas.
Well, I just want to also throw in a few other facts, which is basically when we talk about commercial Broadway, we're talking about I said 34 theaters. I'm not sure how many we have,
Yeah.
but in any season there may be maybe up to 60 shows that come and go. Off Broadway, there's probably a couple hundred shows in the season.
Really?
I'm pulling
Oh
this out of
yeah.
my I'm just pulling this out of the air.
Right, because we're talking about off-Broadway being including theaters like a lot of theaters that are not in commercial off-Broadway theaters, but in nonprofit off-Broadway theaters.
Right, exactly.
But I
And the
think,
other thing that
yeah,
we have in New York is we have the off Broadway or the independent. We're trying to get it. We're trying to get people to call it indie theater. We've been trying for 30 years, but
mm-hmm.
it's still known as off Broadway or showcase theater. And the last statistic I saw, which was this was pre-pandemic, an average season had 1,000 to 1,200 of those productions,
Yeah, it makes
showcase
sense. I mean, look
or
at that.
off
Look
Broadway
at that.
productions. So there,
Incredible.
in New York, if you just look at New York, we can see that there is a wide range of theater tastes, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a wide range of different kinds of theater that we have here. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that that's reflected also in elsewhere in our community. We don't really give credit to community theater. Community theater is very important.
There's so
And
much
community theater
community theater
basically brings
too.
theater to people who wouldn't otherwise not know what theater was. So we have all levels.
We do. We have so
Oh,
much.
good
We have
Lord. I
so
have
much.
Siri on. Why are you on, Siri? How do I turn you off?
Okay. So
Siri, turn
anyway,
off.
um, and it's all important. I just want to say
No,
that.
please stop.
And I think Broadway is really it's too expensive
There.
for a lot of people,
I
but
clicked on
it's
something.
also
I don't know how
it's
Siri came up. I don't know. I didn't even know when she did this.
anyway.
Anyway,
So what a
where
wonderful
was I?
conversation.
No, stop it.
Bob.
Well, there you go. Got rid of it.
Anyway, I think we should maybe wrap, right?
I was going to say, I think we can wrap. I have a question. If anybody in the room has any questions, do you want to take any questions, or do you want to we can wrap if you need to go? It's fine. Do you need to go? I'll wrap up. I don't see questions in the room.
Yeah, I just I was conscious of time because of your yes. I
Okay.
just no, I think if Roberto or Noelia has anything that you would like to say, just a word or two in closing from you all. But otherwise, I think
Maybe Noelia, because I talk many
yeah,
things.
Noelia. Noelia is like an amazing dancer, actor. She's toured internationally. When I first met Noelia, it was at the Mawidache Center, which is Mapuche Center in Santiago, just a little bit outside the center of the city. And we had there was a performance happening there with some incredible singer and performer, Elisa Avedano, and Norma's grandmother, whose name I forget. But Noelia and I talked, and she said she learned English while touring with internationally because all the actors had to figure out how to communicate with each other, and English was the language that most people had in common. So, do you want to just say
Pam,
anything, Noelia?
Pam wants to know, Noelia, what is your favorite part of performing?
I really love the mix or the part of the acting where you can mix everything what you know to do. Like you can sing. If you know how to paint, you can paint in a performance. If you want to write, you can write a play. If you want, you can do everything in the theater. So that's my favorite part of acting or to be an actress.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for introducing me to Roberto and Noelia. And thank you guys for coming in all the way from Chile.
Yes, yes. See?
Long trip there. So I'm going to say a few words to YouTube. So I'm going to actually say goodbye to Roberto and Noelia, and to my good friend Teresa. I'll be right back, but I'm just going to go online and say thanks to the people who come in every week from my community and are part of this. I keep doing it. I just for the record, we will be doing our 300th consecutive week of doing these interviews on February 13th. February 13th, I will be actually interviewing a Broadway set costume designer who came to Broadway after being a fashion designer for many years. We're going to talk about the career transition. We're going to talk about um, what it's like being, this is part of a series that I call Designs for a Living, as a play on Noel Coward. So we're going to talk about having a living in theater as a designer, as well as how they collaborate and interact with the other aspects of theater. Next week, I have Josefina Lopez, who is the writer of Real Women Have Curves. She's going to talk about the film and also the Broadway production of Real Women Have Curves and her career in general, and also what she does to sort of support theater on the West Coast where she lives. She has a theater company that supports new artists and new theater makers. And who knows what I'm going to do in the distance. If I get an email, I always look at all of my emails, all of the emails that I get, and it's like, who is this? I don't know what this is, but I never dismiss them. I always read them and I go, oh, this might be an interesting person to interview. So who knows what I'm going to do in the weeks to come. If you like doing this, if you like what we're doing here and you like listening to these conversations,
Mm.
and you would like to be in the room so you can ask questions, I can make that happen. So just email me at trunltd@aol.com. trunltd@aol.com. And we'll be happy to invite you every week. You don't have to come every week, but we can invite you every week. And when you want to come, you can come.
Mm.
So we also appreciate that we have started this as a community service because of COVID and shutdown, and we wanted to be available for people and offer them an opportunity to come together. Um, well, it's almost 6 years later, and we have more bills to pay than we used to have at the beginning of when we started doing this. So any support that you can give us is appreciated. You can absolutely positively come for free if you need to come for free. But if you can pay the $12 to join us, that would be appreciated. If you want to join TRU as a member, that's $95 a year, going up in a month, it's going up to 105. But right now it's 95.
Mm.
And if you want to give us any kind of support, you want to give us a donation, that would be great. Just go to TruDonate, trudonate.com, trudonate.com. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for finding us out there in YouTube land, and come back again. We would like to see you in the weeks to come.